Well, here I am standing on the canal side, the refurbished towpath of the Caldon Canal between Lichfield Street, where Emma Bridgewater is located, and Eastwood Road. And behind you can see the bottle banks of the former Johnson-Trent Bathworks. The canal was established as part of a network of canals and opened around 1778. It stretched from a place called Etruria Wharf, or we now know as Etruria Wharf, which is the site of the Etruria Industrial Museum, and went all along to what we now call Froghall Basin or Froghall Wharf, which is where the limestone came down from Caldon quarries high up in the Staffordshire moorlands. And the canal was built in order to convey this limestone to various industrial markets. So that's how the manufacturers increasingly got their material. They got a supply of coal, obviously nearby from the North Staffordshire coalfield, but they were getting their pottery from further afield. Therefore, whereas in the earlier days, factories were located alongside turnpike roads, in later years you saw a growth of potteries and other industries establishing themselves alongside the Caldon Canal. And the principal location for that was this 2-mile section, which is coincidentally now covered by City Waterside, that goes from Etruria Wharf right the way through to Ivy House Road. And so you saw in the area where I'm standing now, there was barely a pottery in 1860. By 1895-96, when Johnson's built their last pottery here, there were no fewer than 19 potteries, 3 flint ore grinding mills, and in addition to that, there was a large hand electricity works. And why did that work for industry? Very, very simply because people get their supply of clay and flints delivered canal side. A large number of firms established themselves here. It was a profitable place to do business. And this meant that coming onto the canal were boats bringing clay and flint, China clay, China stone, and what's known as ball clay from Dorset, Cornwall and Devon, and also flints that used to come from Gravesend, from Newhaven, from Dieppe, from the Channel Islands, all offloading their cargo at Runcorn, and they would all come along, be brought further along here. Who were the boat operators? Who had their own boats? Well, Meakins had 3 boats over the years. Johnson had an internal works boat that went along the canal here from here to Milton. But the principal carriers of merchandise were two companies over the years. One was known as the Anderton Company, and the other one was the Mersey, Weaver and Ship Canal Carrying Company. And they all had their different wharves in different locations, so you can start to get some idea just how important an artery, a business artery, waterway artery, this Caldon Canal was. Only 20 miles. On the other hand, there was an enormous amount of industry here. Well, the movement of merchandise by canal started to run down probably in the mid-late 1940s, and some smaller carrying companies went out of business, some of the larger carrying companies merged or whatever. And so along here, it's fair to say there was not a great deal of commercial traffic. This is also accelerated by the rundown of many of the firms that are located along the canal. When I talked about 19 firms establishing themselves, there are only 2 manufacturing locations, I think still around that were here 50 years ago. One is Emma Bridgewater's and the other one is Endeca Ceramics. And they're the only 2 firms that have survived the last 50 years. Where clay was being brought in, it was coming in by road and coming in by rail. The clay producers in Cornwall, English China Clays, they opened a railway terminal at Cliff Vale, and they were bringing in clay And it was only after a substantial campaign of restoration and some large number of enthusiastic volunteers was the canal reopened as a cruising waterway in about 1974. So both road and rail overtook and replaced the canal system. So now the canal is used, and it's a very popular canal, by narrowboat owners and people with cruising boats and so on and so forth. And it's a very attractive location. And certainly the regeneration that's taken place where we're talking now, and the rebuilding of houses, is creating a far more attractive environment. Then there's a lot more work to be done, but I took some photographs down here in 2002, and I was amazed when I came back a few years later, because I don't live in the area, to see just how much had changed. And the regeneration that's taking place is very much the better.